I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Silly Jedi, silly Jedi.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Hello, what have we here?
Hello there.
At last! Where have you been?
Nice of you guys to drop by.
Ah, good. New acquisitions.
I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this.
Hey everybody, welcome to Star Wars Car Talk on this unbelievably Hoth-like morning. Oh my gosh, I don't know where you are listening to this or watching this, but where I am right now, boy oh boy, it's cold. It's freezing. It's beyond cold. Just to give you a little peek behind the curtain. I had to park this car outside my garage, not in my garage. Not that in my garage it's any warmer. I mean, it probably is a few degrees warmer, but this car was like frozen. So when I got in it, I had to sit in it for a while and warm it up, and it's still not warm. I just hit the road. My temperature monitor here, it says the outside temperature is 3 degrees. So it's beautifully sunny, snowy, and Hoth-like. So welcome to Jedi Toy Masters. Driving through the Hoth Outback this morning, and thank you for joining me. So this podcast, in case you stumbled onto this and you're like, why is this guy talking about the weather where he is? What's going on? Well, no, this is a Star Wars podcast. It's part of Jedi Toy Masters. You can find us on Instagram, and you can find us on YouTube as well. And this podcast exists in video form. You actually can see me driving. I am in a car, and that's why it's called Star Wars Car Talk, because I talk Star Wars in the car. So I'm Maurice from Jedi Toy Masters. You can check us out on Instagram. Shoot us a DM. Say what's up. And you can check out some of our other videos that we have on our YouTube channel. You know, some silly videos, unboxings, reactions, Star Wars stuff. We love the Star Wars toys. My boys and I, my little Jedi Toy Masters, we just love it. And today we're going to talk a little bit about toys, but how it relates to what we're going to talk about this week, which is, again, the Book of Boba Fett. That's right, the Book of Boba Fett. It is, wow. This is now, I believe, the 5th episode, and that we just finished watching this week. So spoiler warning, if you have not caught up to the Book of Boba Fett, if you are maybe, just busy and are kind of watching it at your leisure and you haven't gotten to episode 5 of the Book of Boba Fett, spoilers right here, and 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're going to talk spoilers here. Episode 5, The Return of the Mandalorian. That is the title of this episode, of this chapter. Chapter 5, The Return of the Mandalorian. And it's kind of interesting because leading up to this episode, I'm going to just hop right into it. Leading up to this episode, I've noticed that, there's been a lot of comments and critiques of this show as a whole so far, and I was texting with a buddy of mine, and he we kind of were going back and forth. He's not really feeling it. He makes a lot of great valid points, and he sent me an article that was recently written about the Book of Boba Fett, and kind of critiquing the narrative and the story structure and the kind of the hero's journey that we're trying to establish here with Boba Fett in this show, and I get it. I see the points. I get it. But see, my counter to this, now, this is coming from somebody that does not like the sequel trilogy. Okay, I did not like the sequel trilogy, with the exception of perhaps The Force Awakens, and that was purely because The Force Awakens it feels like a Star Wars movie because it was made to feel like a Star Wars movie. It's like a soft reboot of the whole franchise. I mean, it mirrors A New Hope in such a way that it's just not even apologizing for it, you know? Like, to the point where, like, literally Han Solo almost winks at the camera and says, "Oh, there's another Death Star, whatever, let's do this again." You know, it's like, it's not trying to not be what it is, which is a very nostalgic throwback movie. The way that the original Star Wars was a throwback of, like, the Flash Gordon serials, movie serials and stuff like that. This is kind of a throwback. This is like full circle. Star Wars is full circle now. That it's a Star Wars movie that's a throwback of a Star Wars movie. So, yeah. But the rest of the sequel trilogy, I did not care for, and I can talk at length about that. And I don't criticize or judge anyone who liked the sequel trilogy. Because at the same time, you know, the prequels, we had the same issue with the prequels. People didn't like the prequels. People loved the prequels. And there's a lot of people that grew up on the prequels. That was their Star Wars. So let's not, you know, let's not judge it. You know, that's their Star Wars. So with this now, Book of Boba Fett, you know, there was a lot of criticism when The Mandalorian hit the scene. I mean, a lot of people were saying, this is just like a cheap knockoff of a Boba Fett show. You know, they couldn't make a Boba Fett show, so they created this, and it's just a lot of fan service and a lot of this and that and the other. And, you know, the book Mandalorian, we got 2 seasons, 2 amazing seasons of it. Is every episode gold? No. But overall, it's Star Wars, it's entertaining, it was fun. You know, and the biggest complaint I get from the Book of Boba Fett now is that, like, what is the point of the show? You know, like, that's the thing. Like, what is the point? Why are we following Boba Fett? Like, why? What is his motivation? Why is he a changed man? And I get that there's a lot of criticism of the story structure with the flashbacks and all that stuff, but me personally, my opinion, I've been enjoying it. It's, to me, it's good. It's good to kind of like have something that is Star Wars related to watch, episodic, about a character we know and we're getting to know a little bit more of, and that we can just kind of like get lost in this weird journey and these weird stories. Like, I have no problem with that. Listen, I'm not a big fan of the Droids cartoon, but there's people out there that love the Droids cartoon. And those are some wacky, zany stories in the Droids cartoon. And I feel like the tipping point for me was 2 episodes ago when we saw the colorful biker gang, the mods, and that crazy little chase through the city in Tatooine. When I saw that, I was like, this is like I'm watching an episode of Droids, because this is the wacky stuff that you would have seen on that show. And I think it's wacky stuff that you saw in the prequels. I mean, episode 2 alone, Attack of the Clones, is a wacky movie. There's a lot of wacky stuff in there. There's a diner in there. There's a waitress droid that says, you know, that talks like this. All right, dollface. I mean, come on. You know, and I think this is all part of George Lucas's, just the world that he built. I mean, it's his world. It's his world. It's not ours. We get to experience it and we get to be a part of it and we get to enjoy it, but it's a world that he built where there's people working on their ships the way people worked on their cars, the way he grew up working on his cars. There's Flash Gordon, things that remind you of all the old sci-fi, and there's stuff that's fantasy, and there's stuff that feels real world, and there's stuff that's kind of touching on like political stuff with the Nazis and the Germany and the Empire and all that stuff. So like it's like I don't even know if that's the right word, but it's like an allegory of all things rolling around in George Lucas's mind, and every other person that has been a part of it since George Lucas stepped aside has put their kind of like their little 2 cents in there as well, but trying to stay in the same framework and the world of Star Wars. And it's hit or miss. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect science. But I think with the Book of Boba Fett, not to talk in a circle here, I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying it. And I'm going to get to this episode, this latest episode, The Return of the Mandalorian, in a minute. I just want to kind of make it clear just that, you know what? I'm a fan of this show. I know that it's probably not for everyone. It's probably not everyone's cup of tea, whether you're a Star Wars fan or not, whether you're a Star Wars super fan or a casual fan that just happens to have Disney Plus and says, oh, look, there's a show about Boba Fett. Let's check this out, you know? Yeah, you know what? Maybe you're going to like it. Maybe you're not going to like it. It's not perfect. There's a lot of kind of like story structures that seem a little odd. And I get it. You know, I get it that the flashbacks are weird. I mean, we're not used to flashbacks in Star Wars. I did not like the flashbacks in The Last Jedi. The flashbacks are very weird. But I get them. I get them. And and I'm glad we at least have them so that we can kind of get some perspective on what happened to Boba Fett after he fell into the Sarlacc pit. You know, maybe, like, you know what? Maybe the story would have been better off just the starting point. It should have just started with instead of doing flashbacks, it should have started with those story elements of him coming out of the Sarlacc pit, him getting rescued by the Tusken Raiders, him, you know, kind of growing in there and going on these little adventures, and then flash forward to when he meets Fennec Shan, and then, you know, when we meet up with him in The Mandalorian, when he wants his armor back and he wants his ship back, and then they could just boom flash forward to, or there at that point, then he could wake up from the Bacta tank, and we can realize that the first 3 episodes were just him remembering everything that's happened up to this point. Like, maybe we didn't need all this extra flashbackness and him having to go back to the Bacta tank, and meanwhile, like, him interacting in the present with what's going on. Like, maybe that's the story structure that's a little out of whack. Like, I think it probably would have worked better if the first 3 episodes would have been him basically, or the first 2 episodes. The first 2 episodes could have been, or maybe even the first episode. The first episode could have been an hour, and it could have been just everything that happened to him leading up to when we meet up with him and he takes Jabba's throne from Bib Fortuna. Like, that could have been it. That could have been the excuse me, the first episode. Then the second episode could be now he's trying to, you know, the interaction with the Hutt's cousins and the interaction with the crazy black Wookiee warrior bounty hunter, and him getting the Rancor as a gift, and all that stuff could have been like episode 2 and 3. You probably could have done away with the whole biker gang thing. I know. It's just too weird. It's too weird, too fast, too furious. I get it. But yeah, like, you know, it's fun. Like, it's Star Wars. Like, I don't know. Like, I for some reason, I just find myself giving it a pass. And I don't know. I guess I give it a pass just simply because it's not the sequel trilogy, and because this is like directly connected to the original trilogy for me. And I guess psychologically I'm giving it a pass because of that. Maybe I'm just fanboying it, you know, giving it that pass. Kind of like how we all loved the Phantom Menace until we started to break it apart, and then we realized, wait a second, what is going on with this prequel trilogy? And it took a while before the prequels kind of grew on you again, because they became nostalgic. And that's the thing about Star Wars. It's, for some reason, only the original trilogy were hits right off the bat. Everything else that has come after the original trilogy almost feels like you need to experience it, and then you need some time away from it, and then you need to come back to it, and then the added nostalgicness is what kind of makes it good for some reason. And I know that that's kind of like a cheap excuse. Well, then it shouldn't be that way because the original trilogy was just good. Although people did criticize it. People thought Empire was too dark, and people thought, you know, that not all of it was great. And Return of the Jedi with the Ewoks was too weird and too, with these teddy bears, and kind of soft on that end. And then, the kind of like contrasting it with like the battle with the Emperor and Luke, and that how kind of heavy that part of the story was. People have always criticized Star Wars for various reasons. It's not for everyone, but there's elements in there that are for everyone, and I think that's why it becomes appealing. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say. I enjoy Book of Boba Fett. I think it is what it is. One of the things that I was kind of telling my buddy is that, I feel like Boba Fett was this mysterious character for such a long time, and the prequels kind of shed some light on who he was. We met him as a kid. We saw who his dad was. We learned that he's basically a clone, and that all the clone troopers and the Clone Wars was all because of basically him and his dad, his dad, or his host clone. Then in the animated shows, we kind of saw that he was kind of like this, wanting to be like his dad and be this bounty hunter, and wanted revenge for his dad getting killed by a Jedi, and then him kind of getting wrapped in this world of bounty hunting and just the underworld basically of it all, and and learning to be a survivor. So I feel like all this extended content from like the comics and the cartoons and even the prequels to some degree lended itself to basically kind of like already creating this backstory for Boba Fett that we never had, that a lot of people probably didn't want or didn't like. And now there's a show where we're kind of jumping off from there. And now what? I don't know. I guess for some people, this character doesn't seem interesting anymore because that's it. He took his helmet off. He's just a regular guy now. He's just a regular guy. The Mandalorian, Din Djarin, he didn't take his helmet off until he took it off once in season 1, and then he took it off finally in season 2, but still he's still the guy in the helmet. He's still kind of mysterious. Boba Fett, there isn't really any more mystery left in him. I said it speaking to a couple friends, that he's kind of just like this kind of crazy bohemian uncle that we all know, that has been through some stuff and done some stuff. And now he's all of a sudden, he's starting a business, and he's trying to be reputable, when his entire life he was very absent, and he just going off on these crazy adventures that we heard about, and we didn't know what was he up to. And now he's back. Look, Uncle Boba is here, and he says he's starting a business now, and he's got money now. He's dressing a little nicer. He looks like he had some work done. It's weird, but that's Uncle Boba. Remember Uncle Boba? He was never around. He was so mysterious. It was crazy. But look at him now. Uncle Boba is I don't know. I don't know. And he's asking us if we want to be part of this business that he's starting, but I don't know. But it's Uncle Boba. I don't know. I don't know what to do. That's kind of how it is. It's Uncle Boba. What do we do with this guy? I don't know. That's kind of where we're at with the Book of Boba Fett. So yeah, it's not perfect, and who knows? Maybe they ruined the character. I don't know. Maybe that's it. Boba Fett is ruined forever. I still think he's kind of cool, and especially because you can't focus an entire thing on him, and I think that's another thing. The fact that that this is a TV show, I think works in its favor, because if we would have gotten Boba Fett, a Star Wars story, that thing would have been horrible. It would have bombed. It would have been really bad. Look what happened with Solo. Granted, Solo had all these crazy issues behind the scenes and everything, but we didn't need a Solo movie. We didn't need a movie about Solo. And you know what? Maybe an Obi-Wan movie would have worked, But it's because Obi-Wan is such a beloved character, and there's so much story that we don't know, but that we know is there. See, with Solo, it's like, yeah, what? He was like a scoundrel. Like, what do we need to know his backstory for? Or like Boba Fett. Okay, Boba Fett. Like, if he survived the Sarlacc pit, like, what is he gonna do? He's still Boba Fett. He's still gonna try to make money, get revenge. Like, that's like, I don't know. So, like, if it would have been a film just about Boba Fett, you know, there would have been a lot of things lost in translation, and a lot of things that just definitely wouldn't have worked. I think the fact that it's a TV show and it's episodic and that it's wide open so that it can include other characters like the Mandalorian, I think it works. I think that's why it works. If it was a movie, it would have been very disappointing. Because it's a show, we get to enjoy it. We get to talk about it in between episodes, and we get to be surprised the following week, like we were this week. And that brings us to Chapter 5, The Return of the Mandalorian. Basically, this episode was episode 1 of season 3 of The Mandalorian. If you think about it, that's basically what it is. There is no Boba Fett in this episode. The only thing Boba Fett that you can say is in this episode is the final minutes, the final seconds of the episode when you see Fennec Shand. Basically, he finds where Boba Fett is on Tatooine, and he says, "Hey, Boba could use your help. We'll pay you." And Mandalorian's like, this one's on the house. This one's on the house. And he's so cool. He's so cool. He doesn't need any money. He just got a super dope ride. He don't need money. He don't need credits. But man, what an episode. I'm going to start off with the things that I didn't like, because there's less things that I didn't like than things that I did like. First thing that I didn't like about this episode, now granted, I loved this episode overall, but I'm going to tell you the things that I didn't like. The things that I didn't like. I didn't really like the fact that it's a Mandalorian episode in the book of Boba Fett. Like, it really made me want to, like, now I want a season 3 of The Mandalorian. Like, I could care less about what Boba Fett's doing on Tatooine. That's like small potatoes compared to the galactic implications of The Mandalorian, the Darksaber, the Rise of Mandalore. There's so much more at stake. Grogu being trained by Luke, him going to find Grogu to give him this little thing that he got him, that the armorer made for him. I don't know if it's a necklace or maybe it's like a little chain link shirt that he can wear under his little robe. I mean, those stories potentially that are out there now because of this one episode I am more interested in that tenfold than what's going on now with Boba Fett trying to take down the Pike Syndicate. Like, who cares about the Pike Syndicate on Tatooine? Like, Tatooine, the furthest center of whatever Luke says, that it's like nobody cares about Tatooine. Like, I mean, that's a disservice to the show putting this episode in there. So that's a negative. But even it's a negative, it's like a backhanded compliment, because it's because it's such a great character and it's a great episode. The other thing that I didn't like is, I heard somebody else mention this, and I totally agree, because it hit me right away. The opening minutes of The Mandalorian, we see the Mandalorian in like a meat. It's like in a butcher. He's like at the butcher. He's like behind the counter at the butcher, and you see all like these dog men, and they're all like cutting up giant banthas or whatever that is, and like that whole him going back there, that really took me out. The way it was shot didn't seem Star Warsy. It almost seemed like we were watching something else. I mean, it almost seemed like we were watching John Wick or something. Like, that was too real world for me. It was a little bit too real world. Like, I don't want to know about the butcher in Star Wars. Like, all I want, like, we saw a little glimpse of it in Phantom Menace, like when Jar Jar is walking around town and on Mos Espa, and he kind of like tries to steal something, and you see like meats hanging, and the guy's like, "Hey, you gotta pay for that," or whatever. Like that was enough. That was enough for me. I don't need to see like where they get their cuts of meat in Star Wars. I really don't need to see that. I feel like that environment could have been somewhere else. It could have been that maybe like, I don't know, maybe it's like a cantina and he walks through to the back of the cantina and then he finds these guys sitting. Like it could have been something as simple as that, because we've seen that before. We've seen cantinas. We've seen like the secret room behind a cantina. But like this whole like Rocky's freezer butcher place, that took me out. It took me out a little bit, and I had to really fight to kind of stay with it, because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the Mandalorian. So that's two things that I didn't like. What else can I say? You know, the other thing that was kind of weird is just that, like, I get it. He goes to like the underbelly of this ring, fake planet ring place that he's on, which is really cool. And I feel like it was very much inspired by Mark Rocori art. So I thought that was amazing, that ring planet. But like the fact that he goes to the underbelly and he finds the armorer, and then he finds that the heavy duty Mando, which for some reason my sons call him the Dutch baby. I don't know why they call him the Dutch baby. I don't know, but it kind of makes sense. He's a Dutch baby. Anyway, a Dutch baby Mando is there with the armorer. Like that's it, just the two of them just sitting there, hanging out. And like all of a sudden we get like a crazy exposition dump from the armorer about the history of Mandalore, which we kind of knew already if we watched the Clone Wars. But this is good, kind of like a good recap, a good reminder of it, or a good refresher. But like all of a sudden, I mean, you would think when these two people, the armorer and Dutch baby, saw the black saber, you'd think they would be like, where did you get that? Like they would have been freaking out. You would have thought they would have been freaking out, except they weren't freaking out. They're just so calm, like, oh yeah, you got a black saber there, huh? Or how'd you get that? That was kind of weird. It threw me off, and it was cool that we saw it, but I feel like it was a rushed story element to kind of get to the next thing, which was, like he needs to now go get a ship so that he can go to Mandalore and like bathe in the waters of under the city or something, so that he can be forgiven for taking off his helmet, which like all of a sudden there's like a forgiveness for taking off your helmet when you're not supposed to take off your helmet. But it's like, are these people that blind by that rule that they don't realize, like, dude, this guy took off his helmet, but he also won the black saber in combat, and he's also met Bo-Katan, and she's cool with him having the black saber. Like that's a lot. That's heavy. That's a lot. The meaning of that is that's a lot there. It's weird, but that part of the story kind of took me out. Like the story could have literally have been him, getting that bounty, getting some money, and then using that money to get to Tatooine so that he can go buy a ship that apparently this person was going to get him a ship. Crazy haired lady was going to get him a ship. And then, he gets his ship and all that stuff. And you could have at least extended the ending a little bit with him going to see Boba Fett, and Boba Fett really, like, him and them having a little bit of a conversation, and then him saying, okay, I will help you, but there's something I need to do first. I don't know, like it was just kind of weird. Like it feels like it was like a backdoor pilot for a show that doesn't need a backdoor pilot. Like we already had 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, and we know that we're going to get a 3rd season. If Disney knows what's good for them, though, they're going to give us a 3rd season. So why did we need this little backdoor pilot to The Mandalorian season 3? Like, it's just kind of... So anyway, that I didn't like, but honestly, everything else in this episode was amazing. Everything else was great. If you forget that this is the book of Boba Fett and there's no Boba Fett in this episode, and you just think of this as a standalone, like, imagine if this was a comic, and you're every week you go to you go get your comics, and you get the latest issue of Boba Fett, and then all of a sudden, like, this week there's no issue of Boba Fett this week, But instead, there's a one-off of The Mandalorian. Oh, all right, I'll definitely pick that up because there's no Boba Fett this week. Like, that's how this felt. And okay, that's fine. It's just, I just feel like it's a little disservice to the Book of Boba Fett. I still appreciate it, and I still will. I'll take it, you know. But yeah, it was a little bit like that. Anyway, so yeah, you know, the rest of the episode was amazing. I mean, I don't even feel like I need to get into the good stuff because you know what the good stuff is. It's all good. You get a Naboo Starfighter in there. You get the little DD droid from Fallen Order, who might even be the same DD droid because apparently in the game he has like a little messed up leg, and this one also had a little messed up leg. I mean, you get, oh my gosh, like you get R5. You know, you get to be on Tatooine. You get some Jawas. You get some Jawa talk. Woo! A lot of good stuff. You get some X-Wings patrolling and, you know, man, it's just such good stuff. Such good stuff. I look forward to being surprised next week because now it's anybody's guess what next week's episode is. And I love that about these episodes. I love that in The Mandalorian, you didn't know what the following week's episode was going to bring. I mean, we didn't know right up to the second. We didn't know that Luke Skywalker was going to pop up in The Mandalorian. We didn't know that. So this is great. Like, who's going to pop up next? What's going to happen? We could make our predictions and we'll all be wrong. Like, we'll just all be wrong because that's just the way it is. But guys, what did you think of this episode of The Mandalorian? What do you think of the Book of Boba Fett in general? Do you agree or disagree with some of my observations? I mean, whether you love the show or hated the show, if you're a Star Wars fan, you're a Star Wars fan. I mean, you don't have to love everything Star Wars. I didn't like the sequel trilogy. I'm not a big fan of the Droids cartoon. It's kind of weird, but like, hey, I appreciate it. I appreciated that it's there, that it was made, and that other people that do enjoy it can enjoy it. But what did you think? Let me know if you're watching this on YouTube. Let me know in the comments below. Hit me up on Instagram at Jedi Toy Masters. If you're listening to this on, whether it's Anchor or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please, if you can, leave us a review. Leave me a review on the Apple Podcast because it helps the show get discovered. And right now I'm kind of putting one episode where we're kind of like on a weekly to bi-weekly episode schedule right now. I'm hoping that at some point I can get guests on, and there's a possibility that we might move the show from the car to having to doing some in-studio stuff as well. So we'll see. I know the show is called Star Wars Car Talk, and that means that we're in the car, and I know you've gotten used to me being in the car, but we're playing around with the format. Well, don't worry. We're not gonna go too crazy. But anyway, that's it for now. Let me know in the comments below what you think. And bonus content. One more thing, guys. One more thing. Bonus content. The fact that this was the toy aspect that I mentioned earlier, that we were going to touch on toys. The Naboo fighter from 1999, the electronic Naboo Starfighter, came out in 1999 for the Phantom Menace. I have one. We have one. I bought one used a few years ago. It's just missing the little rubber tail piece, but it's pretty complete. It's an amazing toy, amazing ship, amazing design. Of course, now this episode comes out. Now, if you go on eBay, these things are like through the nose now. People are like asking all kinds of money for these things. They're so hard to find. I personally would love to get my hands on another one, only because I want to customize it. I want to paint it silver. I want to like try to add some things and make it look like the Naboo Starfighter in this episode, and put my little Mandalorian figure in there. I think that's really cool. So if you're out there, anybody, if you got one of those, if you got an extra one, if it's sitting in a box of toys from your childhood or whatever, and you're not going to do anything with it, man, I promise you, I'm not going to scalp it. I definitely want to take it and customize it and, do that as like a little project with my boys. I think that's so cool. But it's amazing how this episode of the Book of Boba Fett, The Return of the Mandalorian, in a weird way, was a kind of like an apology letter and a Jedi mind trick to us fans, to all the fans that bought the HasLab Razor Crest and then were greeted with, oh no, there's no more Razor Crest, we blew it up. This episode was kind of like a, well, you know what is cool though? I mean, the Razor Crest was cool, and I'm glad you bought it, and you're gonna get it soon in the mail, we promise. But you know what is also cool? A Naboo Starfighter. Yeah, man, Naboo Starfighter. So don't be surprised if there is a re-release of the Naboo Starfighter in the near future, or maybe even I don't think they'd do a HasLab, but definitely there's going to be like another ship of they have to. I mean, if they're Hasbro can't be that dumb to not. They have the mold for it. There was a 2011 or 2012 re-release of that ship, so all they need to do is slap a paint job on it. Put some stickers on it to make it look all custom, and like there you go, re-release that bad boy, you know. But anyway, guys, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and remember,
The Force will be with you, always.